Hello everyone, this is Outstar and welcome to another Bloodlines 2 related video. This time we're going to talk about the last playable clan in the vanilla game, and that is Malkavian. I know, I was wrong. I told everyone it's going to be La Sombra because that was my prediction, and now the whole internet is rubbing it in my face. I'm sorry, okay? My prediction was wrong, but as I told you guys, I'm very happy to be wrong because this is a very cool surprise for me. Not only Malkavians are back, but they are also back in the form that we remember very well from Bloodlines 1. The weird dialogues throughout the whole game, changing the whole approach you have to your own and to other characters. The madness, the insanity, the pranks and the jokes. From what Brian Mitsoda and other developers of the game said, it seems like the old good Malkavians are back. And it seems like people are in general extremely happy about it, because Malkavian right now is the most popular clan on Bloodlines 2 Discord, and people have been asking me relentlessly to make this video, so I'm very happy to provide. For those of you guys who have no idea who Malkavians are because you haven't played Bloodlines 1, I am very happy to give you the full information right now. So let's say that you are a vampire, and you suffer not only from the hunger for blood, but also for something else happening in your brain. So you sit at the couch at the therapist's office, it could be your psychologist, maybe your psychiatrist, and the doctor tries to determine whether you are a schizophrenic, or maybe you have a dissociative disorder, maybe you have borderline, or maybe you suffer from acute psychosis. And you lie there in front of him thinking about it, and then you realize that your real problem is that you see too much, that you understand things too deeply, and that you feel emotions which are just too strong to handle. And as you share that information with your therapist and he starts to prescribe you some medicine, you tear the little blanket from his hands and then push his neck towards your lips as you think the only thing that can cure you is his blood. Then you drink him dry and you think that you are not exactly sane, and it will probably take 5 more therapists or maybe 15 to really cure you. Yeah, that should be enough, right? Unfortunately, it will never be enough, because you, as the vampire of Clan Malkavian, you are insane! Congratulations! The embrace into the Clan Malkavian either accentuates your existing mental derangement if you were a human suffering from one, or if you were perfectly mentally healthy, well, you stop being mentally healthy. And you develop a new derangement upon embrace, which might be inherited from your sire, or maybe something totally new, dug from the depths of your brain and shining in the new vampiric light. There are 2 sides to Malkavians, or you could say 2 sides to every Malkavian: the visionary and the maniac. Malkavians were prophets, the soothsayers, the one that saw more, the ones that could predict some future events. Along with the endless gibberish, pranks and laughter that they can hear in their brain, they can also hear the truth that other kindred are blind to. Other kindred do avoid their company usually because of their instability. It is not really safe to have a Malkavian in your coterie most of the times. But on the other hand, Malkavians were thriving in the Camarilla and were thriving in the vampiric society, often treated as the prophets and advisors to the most revered leaders of the vampiric world. So let's dig a little bit into the history lesson first, and let me tell you about how Malkavians happened in general. Antediluvian of Clan Malkavian, called Malkav, was a twin brother to Arikel, who is the antediluvian of Clan Toriator. But if you think that Malkav and the Toriator antediluvian were the closest to each other, you will be a little bit wrong, because he was said to be closest to his other brothers, Solot of Clan Salubri and Set of the followers of Set, known now as Ministry. There is even a rumor going on that Set, Solot and Malkav were embraced by the same sire, connecting all these 3 bloodlines together in a very weird way, don't you think? I personally totally believe this rumor because knowing Salubri and followers of Set makes sense. Malkav was captured and killed by the other antediluvians very early on in the history, but Malkavians do believe that he still lives, just in a different form. Either in the form of the whole clan Malkavian, and one day he's going to come back and devour the whole clan just to regain his body form, I guess? Malkavian visions are weird and they sometimes do not make sense, but just trust them when they say that. And the other idea, which I think is way more probable and really cool, is that Malkav still lives throughout the cobweb or the madness network, which is a very weird mental connection that all Malkavians share. Malkavians can usually unwillingly tap into the cobweb and hear the voices of others, even the voices of the entire faction or the entire sect, which then causes them to know more, but then again they still have to filter the important information from the constant gibberish, so they may often not be exactly as useful as you think they would be. Early Malkavians very often posed as the city gods, prophets, the oracles, and they were in general very much revered by both humans and other vampires from the kindred society, even to the point that the leaders of Ventru were listening to their oracle Malkavians when they told them what to do. One of very prominent examples of that is when a Malkavian prophetess told Ventru to start a war on Carthage, which I told you a little bit more in my Bruja video. At the beginning of the new era, Malkavians very often shifted to Christianity, believing that Jesus is actually the new embodiment of Malkav, who was sent to Earth to convince his apostles to seek Cain and convince Cain to beg forgiveness from God so they will not suffer from their curse anymore. Unfortunately, clinging to Christianity at the very beginning of its existence was not that great for Malkavians once the medieval ages came, because as you probably remember from the history books, medieval age was the age of people being afraid of the unknown in majority. Witches were being burned on the stakes, and every self-proclaimed prophet or oracle was burned right next to them. So it took some time up until Renaissance and then up to Victorian age for Malkavians to join the higher clans again. Malkavians did thrive every time in the history when philosophy, psychology, medicine, anthropology, and in general any science regarding human nature was blooming. So first, of course, you think about the ancient Greece, but then you have the Renaissance, you have Enlightenment, you have the era where Freud started to be prominent, and in general the more people want to know about human psyche, the more Malkavians were rising to prominence. As much as I usually talk about the disciplines last, I think it is very important to mention what Malkavians were capable of doing when we talk about their history. And except for obfuscate, which Malkavians usually hide that they have it, and a lot of other vampires just completely forget that Malkavians can turn invisible, Malkavians did own the power of auspex and dementation. Auspex being, of course, the clairvoyant side of the clan, the visionary part of the clan, the discipline that allowed them to see more, to understand more. But then there was also dementation, which was always considered to be a huge danger to the kindred society. See, with the powers of dementations, Malkavians could affect the brains of others. We will be not the only ones insane in here, you all will be insane as well. They could cause frenzy, they could cause psychosis, they could make people psychotic, make people suffer from mental breakdowns, and they were very often using these powers in their research. Because Malkavians are, in a great deal, also researchers, just like Tremere. And they are actually responsible for a lot of things that we know as vampires today. About that I'll tell you a little bit later. But dementation was always a source of a big untrust for the other vampires, who were afraid of both mingling with Malkavians and allowing them to mingle in the kindred society. This is going to be very important now when we are going to talk about the Convention of Thorns, a big event in the kindred world that apparently divided the world of Malkavians in half. According to father of Jeanette and Therese, who is supposedly still alive according to the V5 book, Convention of Thorns caused Malkavians to split in half. And apparently the insane part, the ones that were considered to be totally mentally unstable, they remain in the Camarilla, and those that were more sane, more literate, more in control of their mind powers, they all went into the Sabbat. That is, of course, according to a Sabbat Malkavian, so you may not trust him fully, but that is his story. Interesting enough, none of the Malkavians joined the Anarch sect back when it was formed, and for a long time there were no Malkavians in the Anarchs. Anyway, even if what father of Jeanette and Therese says is right, these roles were reversed soon after, because the environment of the Sabbat made Malkavians dwell deeper into their mental derangements, causing them to very often establish a second mental derangement upon the first one that they received when they were embraced, making their curse doubled, basically. While the Camarilla Malkavians, well, they actually apparently went saner after a while. Well, again, there are a lot of theories about what happened with the clan Malkavian after the Convention of Thorns, but we know one thing for sure, and that thing is the event called the Great Prank. See, Malkavian elders notice that there is a big problem with the dementation in their clan and with the distrust that other clans have to clan Malkavian because of possessing this discipline. With the rise of the Inquisition, with humans actually targeting vampires and the breaches of the Masquerade that often happened because of clan Malkavian, they decided they have to do something with it, and they did something pretty grand. A pilgrimage of Malkavian Methuselahs to one city in Bohemia ended up with a ritual? I don't even know if it was a ritual, no one the hell knows how they did it, but they magically erased dementation from the abilities of the clan, replacing it with dominate. Fun fact, none of the vampires affected knew that this happened. All the Malkavians were just waking up the next night and, oh, dominate. Yeah, I always had it. Malkavians, guys. Malkavians. And apparently not all clan members were affected by this. The anti-tribu ones, the ones that were in Sabbat, still possessed dementation, and also the ones which were too far away from the place of the ritual, so away from Europe, these ones were also unaffected. Then later on, a reawakening happened where the dementation was actually brought back to the Malkavian clan, but according to the new rules, the V5 core book, dementation is a part of the dominate, so these two disciplines merged together. This is not going to be too important once you play Bloodlines 2, because Malkavians in Bloodlines 2 will have dementation just like in the old good days of Bloodlines 1, allowing you to spread some chaos among the streets, especially as in the game you do not break the Masquerade as you're using it. Anyway, remember how I mentioned about the research of Malkavians? Well, you need to thank the Childer of Malkav for coming up with the idea of resonances. The new mechanic that is going to be buff in Bloodlines 2, that is a very big part of V5 core book, and that I personally think adds a lot of flavor to feeding in general. That was apparently researched and found out by Clan Malkavian, and Tremirs are very, very jealous. The thing that I love about Malkavians myself, and the thing that I think is very often overlooked, is how varied, diverse, and vast the Malkavians can be. It's not only about a single vampire having two personalities within them, you know what I'm talking about. It's not only about totally crazy wackos who are pranksters and jokers. They can also be pretty serious and pretty influential in the kindred society. One of the very good examples of that is Vasantasena, I think that's how you pronounce her name. A very persuasive and influential Malkavian elder who traverses the world preaching about the harmfulness of blood bonds. She was originally a Sabbat Malkavian that couldn't agree with the Sabbat's rituals of bonding people to each other. The famous Volderie, the hierarchy that it all created. And through her journeys and research, she developed a lot of abilities that her Childer and her descendants can in the future possess as well. If you are the follower of Vasantasena in the V5 core book, you can break the blood bonds. With enough luck, you can feel whether someone is blood bound to another, and with the biggest power of this particular lore sheet, you are able to convert someone entirely from one sect to another. Goodbye Sabbat, goodbye Camarilla, we are converting you. Imagine having the ability to convert Prince Lacroix into Sabbat or Andre into Camarilla. And suddenly Malkavians seem to be cool even for those who do not think they're cool, right? I think it's also very important to mention who Malkavians usually feed from. Of course, this may vary. You may literally have any particular taste as a Malkavian, but way more often than other clans, Malkavians choose to feed from the elderly. They love those who are broken and sick, but also those who possess more knowledge and more insight than the others. You may, of course, also add to that mentally ill, patients, people who are close to dying, people who are in need of something, because Malkavians very often care for their victims. Sometimes they target those who are enlightened, those with visions, or those who are on drugs, because that also works pretty well. And from all these groups, Malkavians choose the ones they embrace. And you might be the perfect candidate to join the Malkavian clan if you have one of those 3 personality traits. They're looking for, first of all, second sight. This could be your ability to tell fortune. This could be your prophetic visions that you have. This could be the conversations in your head that you have with God or with voices in your head because you're mentally ill. Second sight is something that allows you to see, hear, and understand more, and Malkavians are very often looking for people like that. Second is insight, the empathy. The ability to understand the feelings of others. Maybe you're a therapist, maybe you're a psychiatrist, maybe you're someone who helps others in surviving the difficult times, whether they are caused by the outer factors or the internal ones. Then you are also meant for Clan Malkavian. And finally, the last one, the broken ones. The ones that suffer the traumas, the ones that were somehow broken by the society or by the world around them, maybe by the sickness, illness, or derangement that was consuming them whole. Yeah, these ones will also do. Malkavians in the V5 core book have one of the most interesting archetypes of all of the clans. As I was telling you last, Ventrus and Toreadors, not so fun when it comes to archetypes. I think they're very stereotypical, but the Malkavians, fortunately, they shift the table. The first one is influencing presence, and these Malkavians are the ones which were, for example, influencers in their mortal lives. They had a lot of following, either online or in real life. Maybe they were the gurus or the church leaders or people who were spreading the news about the Bloodlines 2 lore and teaching people online, you know? And these people turn into Clan Malkavian. They use their presence, their charisma and persuasion to inflict people with some thoughts, with things that consume their own brains, but they want to spread it around. Next one is a medium. So people who either have contact again with gods and with other supernatural creatures, or maybe with the dead. Are you one of those people particularly talented in how to work with the Ouija boards, Ouija boards, Luigi boards? You know what I mean. Well, you will also make a very cool Malkavian, and medium Malkavians very often still work in their profession after the embrace. Bat-Analyst is another archetype, not exactly bad as in not professional or not knowing what they're doing. But in general, that is the archetype which sums up Malkavian therapists, doctors, and those who try to help others, not exactly to help others per se. Maybe they try to treat their own derangement through helping others, because that's all done from the selfish reasons. But in general, a Malkavian therapist is also a very solid archetype for a character. Then we have Fanatics, so all of those religious ones, those who believe in some either deities or maybe theories very badly. Fanatic can be someone who really believes in Scientology, but also can be someone who believes fanatically in 9/11 theories, in other conspiracy theories, or maybe raw veganism. Anything works, really. And the last but not least, one of the most interesting ones for me, if I will make a Malkavian character next, this will be probably the archetype I will go with, the pure blood addict. These Malkavians suffer from a variety of derangements and may be sick in various ways, but the one thing that combines them all is the belief that there is a blood that will heal them. They very often pick some prey preference, so for example, they believe that only blue-eyed people are able to heal them in the long run, and they drink from them in masses just to be able to heal their derangement. Some of them are even sure that the pure blood will save them from vampirism and eventually turn them back to humans. I think it's a very tragic archetype, but also an extremely interesting one to roleplay as. So now a little bit of info about Bloodlines 2 Malkavians, because we probably know already that Malkavians do possess the disciplines of Auspex, Dominate or Dementation, and Obfuscate by the book. In the game itself, it will be only Auspex and Dementation. And Auspex will work in the same way as I explained in one of my previous videos, while Dementation will allow you to spread the chaos and make people go into psychosis. Great thing about that is that both of your disciplines do not break the Masquerade, so you can use them in the streets. Your Bane and your Curse, which Malkavians in majority consider a blessing, is your mental derangement, both in the pen and paper game and in the video game. It's going to be the same as remember from Bloodlines 1. Malkavians will sometimes see and hear more things than other clans, which may sometimes bamboozle you into thinking that there's something there while there is nothing. And additionally, all of their dialogues will be different, making it a little bit harder for you to determine whether you are nice or mean to someone. And of course, making most of the NPCs a little bit less prone to trust you and understand you. I was trying my best to ask the developers whether there will be also spoilers in their gameplay, because as you probably remember from Bloodlines 1, a Malkavian playthrough could be a little bit spoilery. The voices in your head were whispering things about people which were true very much before you actually learned the truth. Liar! Liar! And one of the employees of Heartsuit Labs on the stream said something along these lines. I know that Malkavians shouldn't be really played as the first playthrough, but I will personally play Bloodlines 2 as Malkavians at first, because I just really want that. So again, I think my opinion about Malkavians will be similar to Bloodlines 1. Do not pick them for the first playthrough, but if you really want to, I'm sure you will have a lot of fun. Now, I think it wouldn't be really a Malkavian video if I didn't address the elephant in the room, which is the reason why a lot of the pen and paper players do not like Malkavians. And why general Malkavians do create a lot of these very polarizing opinions, because fans of the game are super into them and fans of pen and paper are like, I'm banning all Malkavians at my table and no one can play as one. And that is because of what became a meme already, which is the fishmolk. I think it was started by one of the Dark Ages books, in which there was a depiction of a Malkavian holding a fish and kissing it, and then taking that fish as a weapon and killing people with it. So basically what it was described as is that very often people playing as Malkavian players do not really treat their derangement seriously and treat Malkavians as the comedic relief of the World of Darkness campaigns. It is very often that players who play as Malkavians openly stand against the storyteller or do super random, super chaotic things just for the sake of humor, which is very often not that fun, and other players at the table may be really annoyed with you. And this created this whole movement of people who say that you shouldn't really roleplay a Malkavian unless you do a very vast research about some mental derangement before, just so you can really roleplay someone interestingly. I think I'm personally somewhere in between. I don't think that you should be forced to do this vast medical research before roleplaying a clan in the game, which is all taking part in our imagination. But I personally do notice how Bloodlines 1 did provide a lot of fuel to this whole fishmalky thing, and leading an online campaign I do also observe a lot of fishmalks joining and trying to spread their random chaos. So I think it is very important to remember once you are roleplaying as a Malkavian, especially in text, you do not have to use a weird font. And people who are commenting on my videos with small letter, big letter, small letter, big letter because I'm a Malkavian, don't. Please. Just don't. But then again, I do consider the wackiness of Malkavians as also a very fun part of them, because they were, even in the history of the clan, they were very often the pranksters. I recommend everyone to find this golden middle spots in how to play Malkavians and try to embrace some of the wackiness as well as some of the seriousness to make Malkavians great. Remember that as much as Malkavians can be very funny, they can also be extremely tragic characters. Or you can also roleplay as someone completely sane, on the outside at least. Someone who ferociously battles whatever derangement happens in their brain as they go. Enjoy being insane, everyone, and thank you so much for watching this video. As much as this is the last announced clan, this is not the last clan video, I promise that already. Other clans will be also covered, and let me know in the comments below which clan would you like me to cover the most. Thank you so much for joining today, and don't get lost in the night. Goodbye.